All right, here we go, Lamar. I thank you for your time. Wow, I'm here with a great man, a black man, a married man, a great father. You're all of the above. But to support that, I wrote the book, Great Man, What Art Thou? Because I firmly believe there's too many broken relationships in our society, particularly amongst us as Black people. And I was thinking, earlier this morning, just before the interview, of how we are hurting one another. You know what I mean? No longer can we put it on slavery, put it on our white people, or whatever those things are. But how our minds has just really, really become a place where we're hurting one another, Lamar. And it's grievous to me because we can see that in the broken homes and in the broken families and the rate of divorce and all of that stuff. So one of the things that I know is the communication that's become distorted between us as men and women. And so the purpose for me interviewing you and to hear your heart is because sometimes when we're in an intimate emotional relationship, that communication gets distorted. So I want to ask you from a heartfelt standpoint, how do you and your wife, Black and married, the communication, how do you all keep that communication? And do you keep that communication from a man? How do you hear her heart? How do you hear her heart?
Sure. I mean, I think for men and women, communication is vital. Mm-hmm. And it's vital in all aspects of life, whether it's, for romantic relationships, whether it's your work relationships, mm-hmm. Whether you're a business owner and you need to communicate with, people that work with you and for you, right? So communication and developing better communication skills is something that just can equip you in life in general. When we talk about communication, often my wife Ronnie and I, through our site, blackandmarriedwithkids.com, we always talk about there are two aspects of communication, and we try to keep those things in the forefront. Okay. The first being two sets of responsibility. The first being, one is the responsibility of the person that's actually speaking to ensure that your point is coming across. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that you're explaining is being understood. Mm-hmm. And then also the second responsibility for the person that's listening, like you just asked, right, making sure that I'm being intentional about listening. I'm putting everything forth to understand. I'm not thinking of other things. I'm not thinking of rebuttals. I'm not thinking of, all these different places that our mind goes other than, just focusing on what this person is trying to get across to us, making sure that we're actually capturing that. And then, making sure that we have a clear understanding of what it is they're expressing before we, try to answer them, before we try to find a solution to solve a problem. And, it's not something that you get right away. It's been a process for us. It's still a process for us. Mm-hmm. And it's always something that we're looking to increase upon. But again, that's the importance of anything with your relationships, mm-hmm. is that you need to go out and continually find tools to develop yourself and increase the ability that you have within you to become a better communicator and just to become a better person in general.
So, help not only myself, but our viewers to understand, because you're definitely speaking from a man's perspective. However, we as women, we have been hurt. It didn't just start off with a relationship. It started off from an intimate standpoint. And a lot of stuff started off in our homes. A lot of stuff started off because our fathers were not there. And I firmly believe in the principle, daughters and their fathers and mothers and their sons. You know what I'm saying? That's a different heartfelt thing there. So when our heart has been bruised because we have not been cultivated, we have not had an opportunity to maybe sit on our daddy's lap and say, Daddy, I want to share this with you and share that with you. What would you advise a woman who have been in broken relationships and she just might not know how to communicate her heart? She communicates out her head, but how does she get to her heart that a man can really begin to focus and do these things that you're speaking about?
One of the best things you can do is, set parameters around that communication and sitting down and having a talk, which is communication in itself, right? You need to communicate about how you're going to communicate.
That's right there.
Exactly right. But you need to set parameters around, okay, like I'm trying to figure out what is your communication style and what's the communication style of the person that you're in a relationship with. What are the best times to communicate? A lot of times we hear men who complain and say, hey, I'm ready to talk or I'm willing to talk, but it's just when she's trying to talk to me. You know, and you know, is your person you're in a relationship with, are they the person that when they walk in the house, they're so stressed from work and traffic that they need a few minutes? Are they the person that, hey, you know, it may have been they was sitting there. A lot of guys complain on this, right? They'll say, I was sitting there for 4 hours not doing anything. Then when the game comes on, she wants to have a heart-to-heart.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, but it's, you know, it's still responsibility on both sides, because as women, when you know, speak to men, a lot of times we'll meet a lot of women that say, well, I want to talk about these things with my husband or my boyfriend. And, you know, he says, like, now isn't a good time. And he puts it off until later. Well, as men, it's our responsibility that later has to come at some point.
Right.
So we can tell you, you know, we're going to talk about this later. Now is not a good time. And a good time never happens.
Yes.
So like I said, the parameters around, okay, like when is a time we can actually have a conversation and we can get deep into these different things that we talk about. Because if you don't get to the core and the heart of your problems, and like you talk about, some of these issues, the things that, you know, someone may have been carrying around for, you know, 30 years, 40 years, 50, 60 years. If we can't sit down and talk about these things, then they just fester, and it's not like they go away. They're still there, you know, just kind of undercurrent of it in your relationship. And at some point they pop up. And when they pop up, if those things haven't been addressed, then they cause major issues.
So what you're saying is, it helped me, you know, men are more logical, where you all just don't go off on a whim. You know, it's okay for us to say, hey, you know, Jack, I want to talk to you about this, and you all kind of like put it on the schedule. You know what I mean? You know,
yeah, exactly. You know, and that's a great point. I think that's a great way. A lot of men, of course, like everybody's not the same across the board. Yeah. So I know somebody's watching, it's like, my relationship is the exact opposite. That's great, but just in general terms, you know, a lot of times it's like that. So maybe look at setting up a great time to talk. You know, we've asked a lot of couples like what works in their relationships.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had one couple who said they have don't get mad sessions, where they say, okay, like during this time we can talk, we can be totally honest with each other, and the promise is that no matter what comes out,
we're not gonna get mad, right?
Yeah. Now everybody's not mature. Me and Ronnie, we don't play the don't get mad session. Somebody probably gonna get mad, so everybody's not ready for that.
Right.
But you know, that's one of the things we do. We had another couple who said they're having a conversation, or just in the terms of them just talking throughout the day. But whenever it gets to that point, they preface that, you know, sentence or whatever they're about to say with real talk, to let the other person know, okay, like perk up, put your antennas up, because what I'm about to say is something that's important to me.
Yeah.
So again, it's also that balance of finding out, like, again, what's the communication style of you and the person you're in a relationship with, what works for the both of you, and then how can you make sure you're having those tough conversations, because they need to be had.
You know, you and your wife I know you do a lot because of Black and Married, and you meet a lot of couples. I used to do a lot of marriage retreats, and we had it listed on Real Talk. And one of the things that the couples always did not allow me to eliminate is, please talk to me. That was the title. They were begging, and even a lot of marriage counseling that I've done, the core was the woman saying, please talk to me. And the man was saying, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. What more? But it was a deeper cry that woman was having when she was saying, please talk to me. Whatever they were saying wasn't deep enough for them. Share your experiences and your heart on that in a deeper way, that maybe a woman is trying to say, please talk to me, when she don't even know what she wants to be said. You know what I'm saying? And he don't even know how to say it. And it breeds a lot of frustration because she don't know what she wants, and he don't know what to say based upon what she wants. And they both just say, forget it. And that's how they ended up at our marriage retreats.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point. It's something definitely that we see. And I think that goes to the heart of being intentional about your marriage, about your relationship, and making sure that it's always moving forward. And also when you start to get that disconnect and realizing, okay, like we're unable to solve this on our own, going outside of your marriage to actually get the help. Whether it's coming to a retreat, whether it's going to a marriage ministry, whether it's going to a counselor or therapist, but some person or some, you know, platform or some product that give you the tools that you need in order to keep going forward. Because the problem comes in to where you get stuck and you don't do anything to get unstuck. And then, like you said, like 5, 10, 15 years down the line, then you're like, okay, we haven't spoken for real in last 10 to 15 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we haven't, you know, really connected on that deep level since the kids were small. Now the kids are out of the house.
There you go.
and we don't know how to relate to each other. We don't even know how to be alone and how to talk with each other. So, I mean, I think that's key. And one of the big things we always hear and we always talk about is the fact that people want to, or they need to hear, but they also want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's you're talking about, like, not just I'm talking and you hear me saying something, but like really on a deeper level, you get what it is that I'm saying. And that kind of goes back to what I mentioned at first too. A lot of people that want to be heard, they still have to take their responsibility to make sure what they're saying is getting across.
Yeah.
And it can be that frustration of, I'm frustrated, you don't hear me, you don't hear what I'm saying, but how are you actually communicating that across? And again, are you ensuring that person really understands what it is? And most of the time it's just miscommunication. It's just two people on different wavelengths and they aren't really getting what the other person's saying.
Now, one of the things that I have experienced personally, and I don't know if this is just something that God just have on me because I know how to handle it, but even in my communication, because I believe in respect, okay? And I think that that's a lost thing that we have lost in our society. And even the Bible tells us, don't love our husbands, we respect our husbands, respect them in your lives. And that's a whole thing. But I will even say, even to you, Lamar, I was like, can I ask you a question? Can I say something to you? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Getting that permission, which it prepares your ear. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It prepares your mind. And I'll do that in anything, simply because you are a man. And that's the respect that I believe a woman should have, as opposed to like, ooh, let me just tell you this. Ooh, let me tell you that. Talk about body language. Talk about tone. Talk about that, because we just can't. I don't believe in pointing a finger in your face. Let me tell you this. You know what I'm saying? I ask for permission so you can prepare yourself, but that's a skill, and that's what I know, from a clinician standpoint and a biblical standpoint. But then also, too, I have to watch my tone, raising my voice, because that can tone a person off. You know what I'm saying? And in a relationship, I have gotten the brunt of so many women, or female, shall I say, that have really overly done that stuff, nagged, cussed them out, do all kind of stuff. And so now they tune their ear off. They can't even hear what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
I know I said a lot, but, help me out. Talk about that, because that's prevalent.
Yeah, it's like, we actually, we have a 12-step system called the BMWK Relationship Academy. And probably one of the most popular modules in there is a module we did with a licensed professional counselor on nonverbal communication cues. Because even when we often hear people talk about communication, the nonverbal part is always left out. Yeah. And it's always like, what are people saying? But again, like you mentioned, how are you actually saying that?
Yes.
You're talking to your spouse, how are you actually getting that across? What's your body doing? What are your hands doing? What is your facial expression? What are those facial expressions doing?
Yeah.
And you realize that they may be conveying something totally different than what you're saying.
Correct.
And they may be distracting, slowing, or stopping the message that you really want to get across from getting across. Because maybe your husband hears you saying one thing, but the way you're standing and the way you're looking at him, it just takes his mind somewhere totally different. The way, again, he can't even hear the words that are coming out of your mouth because of the look that you have, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, one of the great exercises we always tell couples to do is, to ask your spouse. When I get mad, like what's the look that I have? Or when I get, happy, what's the look that I have? How do I stand when I ask you to do these different things, right? Or like, what are my facial expressions? Yeah. And it's interesting sometimes to hear or to see how somebody else portrays you. Because a lot of times we don't really realize the things that we're doing because we've been doing them naturally our entire life.
Naturally, yeah.
And a lot of those times, like we do them because we saw somebody doing them when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And that's how, mom stood and acted, or that's how dad stood and acted. And those are the mannerisms they had. So now I carry those mannerisms myself into my own family, into my own relationships and marriage.
And I guess, so in other words, you're saying, know thyself. You got to know yourself, because I know me, I could be, my mind would go off into, I'm a visionary. I could look at one thing and my mind would go off into, I got a vision for this. And my mate could talk to me. I don't hear nothing they say. But I have to discipline myself. Okay, when I'm with him, I'm with him. You know what I'm saying? And I have to work on my mind that it doesn't veer off and I can listen. And that's sometimes a hard job for me, and then they will get frustrated. It's like, you don't even hear me. You don't even hear me. I hear you, but I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that? And so,
yep.
So you got to really, really know yourself, What's your issues? What's your own idiosyncrasies? How does your mind operate? How does your mind veer off? And I think we're so busy trying to govern somebody else's that we don't even know our own self and be true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. You know, there definitely are some questions you have to ask yourself, right? About, like I said, when I speak, what are the things I'm doing? When I'm supposed to be listening, what are the things I'm doing? Like I said, like what are the nonverbal cues that I'm giving off when I'm speaking or when I'm supposed to be listening? And then, like I said, if you can't, I would, you know, challenge everybody listening to pull out a sheet of paper and try to document those different things, and then actually take them to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then ask your spouse those same questions about yourself, and then kind of measure them up. Okay, these are the things that I think I'm doing. This is what my spouse, how they actually receive and how they portray it.
Okay.
And it could be some things that, like I said, it could be that, hey, your mind is just totally going somewhere else because you're a visionary and you're thinking about these different things. But to your spouse, like I said, maybe it just comes off as, okay, they don't care about what I have to say.
Yeah, yeah.
When that could not, you know, maybe that's not even the case. It just could be something totally different. But, you know, if you know, you can sit down and kind of share that and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, but, you know, I shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to try to be more respectful of the conversation, more respectful of the moment that we're sharing with each other, and then trying to work it from there. I really think you can start to see some progress.
Well, I want to talk about one thing. I wrote a chapter in the book. It's called Fear Factor. And you know, I deal with the real things of life of what people are, and I believe that many women are trying to pressure men into doing things. For instance, I hear a lot of women saying, well, I'm ready to be married. If you ain't dating me, ready to be married. You know what I'm saying? Then heck with it. You know what I'm saying? Or they've been having sex with them all the time. And then all of a sudden when they're ready to get married, they withdraw the sex. You know what I'm saying? You ain't marrying me. You know, we got 3 kids together. You know, and I don't just think that men respond to pressure like that. They may have their own fears. We all have our own fears, but I don't believe, you know, you all as a man respond to a woman trying to make you do something. Whether it's make you take out the garbage, make you marry them, make you do this. A lot of dominance is in our society now where we're trying to make you do what we want you to do. Are you encountering some of that? Not in your home, but I'm talking about in your marriage and your ministry aspect.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, and what you talked about with, women wanting the men that they're with to marry them, I think that's something that we see so much of. We see, you know, I see it both ways. I see women that are in relationships where they probably should exit those relationships, but and they want to be married, but they're afraid to bring up the conversation. Because they don't want him to feel pressured and they don't want him to leave. So it's like they're on all the way in that extreme where like they want to be married, but they're afraid to say they want to be married.
Okay.
And then I see the other way where, like you said, it's women that are trying to force and pressure men into marriage, and forcing anybody to do anything doesn't work. Doesn't work. Because either when they do it, they're going to be resentful. When they do it, they're not going to be serious about it. They're not going to mean the things that they say and the things that they do. So that's not really the route that you want to go either, what you want as well. And even in those situations, if you're forcing someone into marriage, most likely that's not a marriage that's going to be built on a strong enough foundation for that marriage to last. Because when issues come, when challenges arise, probably one of the first things they're going to think about is that I ain't want to be married no way. Right. And it's probably one of the things they're going to say. You wanted to marry me. Right. I didn't want to be married. I wanted to do this. So I wanted to do that. So really, it just causes people to really, think about, okay, what am I doing? What are the things I want in my life? If you desire marriage in your life, it's one of the biggest things I'm an advocate for is like if you desire marriage, you deserve to be married. And you deserve to find someone that wants to be married as well. Yes. And that means not pretending like you don't want to be married for somebody that doesn't. And that also means not trying to force somebody to be married that doesn't want to be married. It means, like I said, just looking out there and finding somebody who that's what they want. And I think so oftentimes, specifically with singles again for a second, that's what we see when we see someone trying to force a guy to get married. He doesn't want to get married to them. And then, after 10 years, they break up. And then what does he do? The very next person he meets, he marries him. He marries him, right? Yeah. Right. And in the meantime, for 10 years, you've taken yourself off the market and you've missed out on all these other men that did desire marriage, that were looking for a woman like you, because you kept yourself reserved for somebody that didn't really want what you had to offer and weren't in line on the same plane, but the same thinking about where you both wanted to go in your lives.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes we as women, we commit too soon. We're single, but we act like we're married.
That's good.
Yep. Some who's married who act like they single. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't need to be doing all that. You know what I'm saying? Respect your husband. And the other ones, we just want to be married, that we commit to it before they even ask. You know, Lamar, I know that you just did not come out the cradle. You know, knowing these things and developing and allowing God to create the man in you that you are now for your wife, for your family. How did you get to this place? What were some of your pitfalls? Give me some life lessons from a man's perspective that caused you to be who you are today as a great man.
Sure. You know, I would say probably one of the strongest things. And I didn't grow up with my father. You know, I knew who he was. We would see each other every now and then, but he wasn't like real present in my life. Mm-hmm. But who was very present in my life was actually my grandfather. Mm-hmm. And always, credit him for really how I grow myself and try to judge where I am as a man is based on what I saw him doing as I was growing up, right? And how I saw him providing for our family, being the leader within our family, taking care of his kids, taking care of his grandkids, being a leader in the community, being a leader at church, and really, just stepping up and being a stand-up person, knowing that, hey, he wasn't perfect. And there were a lot of things he did, and he matured as he got older, as I learned more and more about his story and about who he was. But just knowing that above all things, he was honorable.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's something, because I saw that, it really made me want to desire to do some of those same things. And at the same time, not having a father that was very active in my life made me want to be more active when I had children.
Yeah, yeah.
So that made me want to be there for my kids so they wouldn't have some of the same feelings and thoughts and things that I had as I was growing up. I said, I don't want them to feel that way. I don't want them to go through some of the same things. So I want to make sure I'm actually I'm there for them and I'm available for them, and that they don't ever wonder, hey, did dad love me or not? Hey, was dad there or not? And they don't just have any of those thoughts. And it's still been a process of maturing. I definitely say marriage matures men greatly. Okay. I definitely say fatherhood matures men greatly when they engage in fatherhood. And it's a process, and it'll continue to be a process. And one of the greatest things, like Black and Married with Kids always say, it's not just a blessing to the couples, but it's really a blessing to Ronnie, my wife, and myself.
Yeah,
because it allows us to indulge into books and into conferences and workshops and different things that we're always doing to improve ourselves, improve what we know about marriage and about relationships and around parenting. And we get to connect with just so many other people and hear their stories.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think that's like a big teaching point that a lot of people miss because so many aspects of their lives are secret. Yeah. And it's like they got this secret little compartment of life they live in church. But then when they go to work, it's like a separate little secret compartment. Then when they go home, it's a separate secret compartment.
Yes, yeah.
The hook. Marriage may or may not be right. Kids may or may not be right, but nobody ever knows about that. And when it all comes together, they're not doing enough connecting with other couples to find out, hey, guess what? This thing that we're going through is other people going through it just the same way.
Yes.
This issue that we're having with the kids, hey, it's another couple we know that had the exact same issue, and guess what? They got through it.
There's nothing new up under the sun. It's just a matter of talking about it and exposing your vulnerability.
Exactly. And once you do that, like I said, once couples really connect with other people, and you reach out and you find people that you can be honest and transparent with, and they're honest and transparent with you. Like I said, then you realize, like you said, it's nothing new under the sun. You realize that there are other people who will face the same challenges. They've risen above those challenges. And then once you see that, you get hope. And then once you get hope, the next thing you need to do is get the tools so that you can have the same transformation they've been able to have.
Yes, yes. There's so many women out here that is believing God for a great man, which is why I wrote the book, because I don't believe that there's any failure in God. But I do believe that we have to be prepared as great women for a great man. And that's a man with a mission like unto yourself, a man with a purpose. It is unfortunate that every man does take pleasure in being a father. It's unfortunate every man doesn't take pleasure in being married. If we would have more. You know what I'm saying? But we have to know how to birth, and we have to know as women who to stand and who we are. As a man, great man, give 3 tips to a woman who's saying, I want a great man with a mission, with a purpose, and with a vision. what should that woman do to prepare herself? Give us just 3 tips, what we can do to posture, prepare, and to poise ourselves for that man to come.
You know, the first thing is something you kind of touched on. It's something my wife, Ronnie, always says in this type of conversation. It's just, first thing is just to work on yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, we always have these desirables that we want for other people, but do you match those own desirables yourself? Mm-hmm. And you know, self-improvement, because it matters nothing if you get that right person in your life, but you're not prepared and ready and equipped to handle them.
Yes.
And you got drama, you got, you know, old and current relationships floating around, you know, just all these different things that when that right person does come, it's going to scare them away anyway.
Yeah.
And they say, I don't want anything to do with this drama and this mess. So really clear up the mess, work on yourself to make yourself a better person. In addition to that, I would say, you know, once you find people, I love how you said earlier, like don't commit too soon. Yeah. I think that's what you said, right? Yeah. Like, you know, don't commit too soon, right? And I love the fact that you have the ability to meet people. And it was an article one of our writers wrote on blackandmarriedkids.com one time that said, every man you meet is not your husband.
Yes, 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 yes.
So like every guy you bump into, right, he does not necessarily have to be the one. Yeah. And it's okay to, you know, try to learn more about him and try to find out more about him and what his goals are, what his ambitions are, and all those different things before, you know, you're trying to jump into a relationship with him. Yeah. And then make them into your husband. You know, get to know that person and get to know more about him. And then I definitely say, for my third thing is just be open, I guess. Mm-hmm. Open to meeting people, open to doing things, open to positioning yourself where people may even be. I think a lot of times in the church, we did a session. One of my good friends, Kenny Pugh, talked about the fact that while you're waiting on God for that man is probably not just going to parachute through the glass window at the church and knock you on the head in pew 3, right? So like you still have to take some initiative. We have a great writer, Aisha Adams Roberts, that talks about dating, right? And especially specifically for Christian women as well. And I love, you know, she gives them tips, and there are different things you can do besides just sitting in the pew at church and saying, okay, the man that God's going to give me is going to come right here and meet me right here in this place. Yeah. So you have to get out, you have to do new things, you have to meet new people and really put yourself in a position, you know, to meet people, to be found, if that's what you want to do.
And you also have to, I mean, for me, I am so comfortable and content with dating myself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I will go out to dinner, take a book, give me a glass of wine, read. You know what I'm saying? Please don't say nothing to me, because that ain't, you know, that's what I'm saying. Please don't say nothing, because that's not what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying? I'll go to the movies by myself. You know what I mean? You have to learn how to be with yourself. And I think that takes the desperation out, you know, and you got to watch it too, because you could, like me, I could be so content with myself. I'm like, oh Lord, please don't send me no man. You know what I mean? So it's that balance. It's keeping your heart open, like you were saying.
Definitely keeping it open.
But you have to learn how to be with yourself, you know, and then you pursue your mission and your purpose. It's like, even for myself, you know, because this is my breath, this is what I love. I honor, I esteem men, you know, I believe in the order of God. So when I'm speaking, you know, and it's men that, you know, they want a wife and they be like, oh, you my wife. Oh, I ain't your wife. Oh, no. Nope. I ain't first lady material. Trust me on that. So you got to know yourself to be true, because we as women can get caught up with the flattery. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when you're flattered, you can end up in something that's not for you.
Yes, because it definitely are people that prey on that. And, you know, you reminded me as well, you know, you talk about keeping your heart open, always talk about lowering those walls. Yeah. And that hurt and that pain that we, you know, carry, and you may be carrying from previous relationships. It may be from daddy hurt. It may be from mommy hurt. Yeah. It may be from things that happened in your past, but it still has to be an opportunity for you to lower those walls for that new person to come in.
Yes.
It can't be about making them pay for what everybody else before has done. It can't be about making them like one of the, I just really, I like hate it. I hate it. I don't know, this is a strong word, but I hate it when I have people say, well, you know, if they really want me, they'll tear that wall down. or they'll do what they need to do to get
That's
that
too
wall
much
down.
work.
Exactly. It's too much work.
Especially when you get over 21.
Yeah. And that is not that person's responsibility to tear you. They didn't put that wall in place. It's not their responsibility to tear it down.
That's your responsibility to tear that sucker down. It ain't nobody else. But to see,
Exactly.
that's the flattery that's saying, if you want me, you'll work for this. You know, and don't get me wrong, men who've been hurt, come on now. Men who've been, because I've encountered some hurt, bruised men, you know, and they want me to pay for what the other woman did. You know, I'm like, the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. But because I understand that, and I will still give myself to a certain extent, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But they really want me to work and pay for what they've done. And you got to know your boundaries. You got to know I always tell people, I don't have to tell you, but I know what I will do and I know what I won't do. Yeah. And I don't have to communicate my thoughts. Some things I just don't have to communicate. I think we as women tell too much too soon too. Yeah,
you know, and that's it. I mean, like I said, we all have this hurt, and especially the older we get set in our ways, and we have this baggage, right? And that baggage get bigger and bigger that we carry around from relationship to relationship. Yeah. Like I said, it's not that person, and that's where that self-help and the self-healing comes into place. We did a training. We have a singles academy as well. We did a training for singles academy, and probably the most popular module there is the first one we do about healing from past hurt. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and there are people who say, you know what? I didn't even know I was carrying around this stuff. Yes. Until, you know, I started to get help. And that's the importance, again, of getting help, of reading and watching films and videos, or going to workshops, you know, reading books like this one you're doing, so that you can really start to equip yourself with the tools so that you can become a better person. And then, you know, you can find that person that you need. I have a good friend, right? He always says, hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. Yeah. and heal people heal people. There you go. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta and please consider, I'm gonna send you the book. And I would love for you and your wife to consider utilizing that to promote it for the singles, for the unmarried, because it's also a lot about how we have to birth the men into their place. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You see what I'm saying? You can't just keep throwing, oh, no, not this one. Oh, no, not this one. Because first of all, it's not ourselves to choose. The Bible says he who seeketh the wife, not she who seeketh the husband, you know. But even when he come with his issues, I can't tear that wall down, but at least I got to know how to birth those issues into your place of destiny, because we are the womb bearers. And that's what I teach women. It's just like you birth a child, you got to birth vision. You got to birth that man's heart. You got to give him back to God. And I think that we as women, oh, my man, I tear that stuff down. You don't have a man. He's God's man. There you go. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Stop coveting. You know what I mean? But know that every man has a woman, you know? So I think our minds have been so skewed that we're looking for some outcomes and we're not thinking in the right way, you know? And because I'm not married at this time, I really know God has given me a time and a season to invest in men and women as singles to understand their position. I don't think we really understand our position all the time. Yeah. And that's great, you know, and what I would, you know, that's what a lot of stuff you're saying, like it even is one of the reasons we do what we do, so that we can show what marriage is to singles. And we can take some of the mystery of it out, so that when they do find that right person, they're already beginning to prepare and equip themselves for, okay, this is what marriage looks like. These are the pitfalls that marriages face. And I want to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that other people make. Too often, nobody's really having those honest, transparent conversations with singles about this is what happens in marriage. This is what happened in our marriage. Yeah. This is the things that go right. These are the things that went wrong. Yeah. So they just, when they do get married, they fall into a marriage, and then they're just making the same mistakes that everybody else around them has made over and over again, you know, continuing generational curse and a generational cycle what's been happening in their family from, you know, person to person to person. And, you know, from a clinical standpoint, you know, from a clinician standpoint, therapeutically, you know, we have a tendency to compare, you know, and we cannot compare Lamar and Ronnie because what God has given you as a man is how he's shaping your heart, how he's shaping your mind. And I know it's not all fluff, but that's Ronnie's problem. That ain't, you know, nobody else's problem. You know what I'm saying? But how do I handle my problem? Because when I get them, I may use some of these tools, but some of these tools ain't working for this black man. You know what I'm saying? Some of these tools ain't working. So I got to know with specificity, what issues can I handle? And I teach people, know the issues you can handle. Show me your wounds.
Show me your scars. Does your feet stink? I need to know. You know what I'm saying? You know, take off your sock. Do you have a little fungus? I need to know. Don't wait till then. You know what I'm saying? So we have to know the issues. And I think that is so critical, because the Bible said, let every wife submit to her own. Not just a husband, her own. Husband. So that own part is very, very critical. Own, you know, what Ronnie deal with is not what I'm going to deal with. We have some similarities, but she's anointed for you.
Yeah. And plus, you know, I think message we always try to get across singles as well is that you never know what's going on in someone's house anyway.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, I mean, what I've realized by doing this work and talking to so many couples is that the couples that do the most oftentimes are like doing the least in their relationships.
There you go. I love it. I love it, Lamar.
I mean, the couples that you see on, and it's just being real, right? You know, because we'll see couples, and before I really didn't realize, so you would see them on Facebook, and they got amazing pictures, and it's like every weekend they're out and dates every other day. Yeah, it's like lunch every other day, and everybody's, oh my God, you know, you guys are the quintessential Black family. You're the new Cosbys, and, you know, all this type of thing like that. And then that person's calling us, you know, one night crying, talking about, you know, their relationship is on the brink of breaking up. And we're like, you know, we can't believe what we're hearing because the image that they portray doesn't match up to what's really going on inside of that home. So I think that's another pitfall that kind of singles fall into, of thinking, okay, I want this, or I want to be like that, or this is the life I desire, not really knowing all the other things that are going along with it, that behind closed doors, they can be fussing and fighting.
And that's why you really got to get into that person, because even Facebook can really, they have trying to turn that into a dating site and all this stuff. And people go, you know, I tell people, when you give me your resume, don't give me all this, show me your are you late for work? You know what I'm saying? You know, what you got to do that you come in on time, and how many times are you late? Because people want to tell you they good stuff, but they don't want to tell you how much really they jacked up. Show me your wounds. So we really have to be careful, because ain't nobody posting nothing on Facebook with rollers in their hair. You know what I'm saying? Nobody posting Facebook when, you know, when you really to cuss somebody out. You know what I mean? You want the fluff, and it's the imagery that is misleading us. It's the imagery.
But, you know, I think that speaks to what we talked about earlier, right? Not moving too fast. And getting to know enough about a person before you're head over heels, falling in love, and then you almost feel like it's too late. Or like, I love him now, or now we done messed up and slipped up and had a baby somehow, or, you know, all these other, now we living together and all of our stuff is intertwined, and it's hard to get out of this.
It's hard to get out of it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, so that's one of the things I love how we talk about that. It's like just kind of taking your time, and still, once you take that time, realizing that you can maintain the standards that you have for yourself and for your relationships, and not really lowering those standards. Like I said, and being in that situation I talked about earlier, where you know you want to be married, like, you know, marriage is in your heart. That's what you desire. That's what you've been praying for and believing in. But you know that's not what this other person want, but you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Whenever the conversation, you know, I mean, I've seen people who I know want to be married say, you know, hey, it's not a big deal, or, you know, it's not something that, you know, I could care either way. When I know that they care, I know it's what they want, but like I said, you know, they've just gotten they feel like they're so deep into this thing, which I like to mention too. There is no such thing as so deep into this thing unless you're married.
Okay, yeah, that's the truth.
So,
that's the truth.
Unless you're married, like, you can exit that relationship at any time. I think a lot of people like, you know, well, we got this, you know, we're you know, we've been dating for this long and that long. Like, if you're not married, you can't exit that relationship. And
sometimes you can get tired, because I know, like, you know, you could be in a relationship for 3 years, and I mean, particularly at my age, you know, being 50 and young, you know what I mean, or over 50 and young, and then you be like, okay, I invested 2 years, 3 years, I don't really want to try it again, I don't really want to do this again. So you can settle, you can get stuck, because you don't want to put that energy into it, you know. And now I'm at a point, it's like, do I really want to be married? You know, I don't even know if I want to be married. I'm in between. You know what I'm saying? I'm good, you know, but then I have to say, God, what do you want for my life? You know what I'm saying? I have to yield my will to the will of the Father, you know, because a lot of times we don't know what we want, and we just got to say, God, let your will be done, you know, and prepare me for whatever that will is. And I think that's a very key ingredient.
Yes, I love it. I definitely agree.
You know what, Lamar? We can go on and on. I thank you for your time. I can't wait. I interviewed you for the magazine, you and your lovely wife, Dunamis Woman of Real Awesome Men magazine. You're in there. We had an opportunity now, video conference, to see you. You know, great man, where art thou? So the next time, I'm gonna have to come and hug you all's neck.
There you go. You got to meet in person.
We got to meet in person. Maybe I could contribute to some of your single stuff, what you're doing. Whatever we could do, let's help one another. Stay connected, and I'll be at one of your events. Let's make it happen, okay?
Definitely. Thank you so much for everything.
Tell your wife again I said hello and be blessed, okay?
All right, you do the same.
All right, bye-bye.